Hello, and welcome to the Legal Gym podcast, the show where we help entrepreneurs to protect and grow their online businesses the smart and legal way. I'm your host, James Hart, a trademark lawyer and founder of the Hart Law Firm, Hawthorne Law, and One Stop Legal. Today's episode is all about the legal stuff you probably don't want to deal with when you're running your business, but you absolutely must. And ignoring this type of information is going to be really detrimental to the health of your business. So I'm breaking down the must-have legal templates that every online business needs to stay protected, from client contracts to website policies to much more. So if you've ever worried about receiving a chargeback, refunds, or clients ghosting you after you've done the work for them, this episode is going to be for you. You ready? Let's dive in. Now, quick disclaimer before we get started. I do want to let you know that this was originally a video on my YouTube channel. So if the audio sounds a little bit weird or off, that's why, but the content is gold, and I think you're really going to enjoy today's show. So let's get into it. You're building your dream business, but one wrong move could leave you legally exposed. That's why legal templates are so powerful. They help you to stay protected without a hefty legal bill. In this video, I'm going to walk you through the must-have legal templates for online business owners and how to use them, most importantly, the right way. Ready? Let's do this. Hi, my name is Jim Hart. I am an online business and trademark lawyer, and I help online businesses to get and stay legally protected so that you can focus on growing your business without worrying what might go wrong. Imagine you're in a world where you're landing a new client, you're launching a new course, or maybe you're hiring your first team member, but you're doing it without a contract. Or maybe you're running an online store without a clear refund policy in place. Or, and this is the worst, you're collecting emails and you don't have a privacy policy in place. Each of these decisions is a potential legal minefield, and most of you and most business owners don't even realize it. And that is where legal templates come in. They give you a solid legal foundation, save you time, and help you avoid expensive mistakes without having to hire a lawyer for every little thing. Now, full disclosure, I'm a lawyer. This video is not legal advice, so I recommend before you do anything, you definitely should talk to a lawyer to make sure you're doing things the right way. If you're on a budget and you just need some quick information, I'm here to help you with that today. So let's break down the legal templates that every single online business owner should have in place for their business. If you work with clients, maybe you're a coach, consultant, a designer, or maybe even an agency, then you definitely need a client services agreement. Here's a couple of things that you need to make sure that agreement includes. Number one, and most importantly, scope of work. You need to make sure the contract says exactly what you're going to be responsible for doing and exactly what the client is responsible for doing. You don't want any mistakes here. And you definitely want to make sure that you don't get into what's called scope creep, which is where clients start to ask you for things that are outside the scope of what you're supposed to do. I can tell you from experience, that's a big problem. And if you don't have a clear scope of work in your contract, then it's very easy for clients to take advantage of the situation. Secondly, you need payment terms. You need to know how you're going to get paid, when you're going to get paid, how much you're going to get paid, all those things. You need to make sure that's spelled out in your contract. Third, refunds. What are you going to do if a client comes to you after you've done some of the work and says, you know what, I've decided I don't want to move forward with this anymore. I need a refund. How are you going to handle that? Is the fee that they paid you, is it refundable? Is it non-refundable? Is it partially refundable? What are you going to do? It's always helpful to have a policy in your contract that deals with refunds. Termination. What happens if you've got a client who becomes difficult or unruly or doesn't want to work with you anymore or stops paying or anything like that? You want to make sure you have something in the contract that deals with how you can terminate, when you can terminate the contract, without you getting into trouble or getting into a situation where a client could sue you. And dispute resolution. So if you do get in that situation where you and the client have a disagreement and potentially someone's calling breach on the other person, you're staring down a potential lawsuit. If the contract's big enough, then you definitely want to have something in the contract about dispute resolution. And that's going to be an arbitration clause, a mediation clause, something like that that details how you're going to resolve disputes should something arise with the client. Without these 5 very simple clauses in place in your client services agreement, you risk misunderstandings. For one, you risk late payments. Client doesn't know when they're supposed to pay or how they're supposed to pay you. you risk refunds or chargebacks and other potential legal disputes. So you definitely want to make sure you have a client services agreement in place. I will tell you, in my law practice, this is one of the first documents that clients hire us to prepare for them because it's just that important. Second main contract that you need to make sure you have in place is an independent contractor agreement. So when you bring on a freelancer, could be a virtual assistant, copywriter, a designer for your business, a video, anything like that, you need a contract that outlines a couple very important things. Number one, what they're going to do for you. So just like a client services agreement outlines the scope of work that you're going to do for the client, an independent contractor agreement where you are hiring the contractor will outline what that independent contractor is going to do for you. When are those deliverables due? You want to make sure you have something in the contract that says when that independent contractor is going to provide materials that you've hired them to provide. What's the deadline? 3, how much are they going to get paid? And when do you owe them that money? So this is another very important provision that you must have in your contract. When you're going to pay them, how you're going to pay them, how much you're going to pay them, those type of things need to be in the contract. And finally, and this is something that's quickly forgot about by most online entrepreneurs, who is going to own the work product? So if you have somebody who's designing a website for you, you have somebody who's doing your video editing or podcast editing, somebody who's writing blog posts for you, who owns that content? You want to make sure it's very clear in that independent contractor agreement that you, as the business owner, are going to own that contract, and anything that they have done for you is considered work made for hire. So that's very important when it comes to copyright implications, potential brand infringement, different things like that. It's important to know who owns the intellectual property. All of these things will help you to avoid confusion and ensures that you're not accidentally creating some sort of employee relationship with your contractor. Third, you need to make sure you have some website policies in place. If you run an online business, especially if you're collecting emails from people or other types of information, or if you're selling products through your website, you need to make sure you have a privacy policy. That's going to be required by law. It tells the person who comes to your website and provides their information what you do with that data, how you dispose of that data, when you purge that data, all those type of things. You need to make sure you have a policy in place. Details all that for people that might give you information. Second, you need to make sure you have terms and conditions on your website. This is a contract essentially between your business or your website and the people that come and visit your website. It outlines what they can and can't say or do with the information on your website. Third, you need to make sure you have some disclaimers in place, especially if you're dealing with legal topics such as health advice, medical advice, financial advice, legal advice, tax advice, anything like that. Anything where the information you're providing could conceivably be considered some sort of professional advice. You definitely want to make sure you have disclaimers on your website that outline the fact that the information you're providing, again, is for informational purposes only, just like this video, and is not to be misrepresented as professional advice. So aside from giving you some legal protections there, these documents are going to help build trust with your audience, because if you don't have them, people are going to look at you and think, what's wrong with this business that they don't have these very simple standard documents in place? And they're going to help you stay legally compliant. So you definitely want to have them. I will say, if you've set up an LLC for your business, there's a special category of documents you're going to need. And basically, even if you're the only business owner for your business, you need to make sure you have an operating agreement in place. This is going to be required by some states, not all states. It's going to outline how your business is structured, how your business is going to get taxed, what happens if certain events happen with your business, your responsibilities as the owner, what happens if something goes wrong. Like I said, in some states it's required, most states it's not. However, it's a very smart idea to have that operating agreement in place. Legal templates are powerful, but they're not an end-all be-all. You got to make sure you use them correctly. So here are some tips about that. Number one, you don't just want to copy and paste. If you purchase a legal template online, you don't just want to grab that information and just copy it and paste it directly into your website. Oftentimes, you're going to need to do some customization of the template to make sure it fits the needs of your business. Especially if you're purchasing a legal template online, chances are it's not going to be perfect for your business. You're going to need to make some changes to it. So you want to make sure you customize that template to fit the needs of your business. Now, when you purchase templates from my template store, One Stop Legal, I will tell you, we have an input that you basically get access to. And so you can enter all your information is pertinent to the template, then you'll be able to download a copy of the template that's already pre-filled with your information and customized to the needs of your business. However, you're still going to need to make some minor edits and changes in certain places to make sure that the template is accurate for what you need. I would avoid free generic downloads. When you go online and you just type in free privacy policy or free website terms and service, you're going to get a very generic, very bland legal template. And I can't promise, and nobody can promise that template is going to do everything that you need to protect your business. Along those lines, do not use AI to draft your templates. I did an entire podcast and blog post about this, about multiple reasons why using AI to draft legal templates is not a good idea. I'll leave a link down in the description below so you can check that out. Now, the other thing I will say is you want to make sure that you review your templates regularly. I would actually set a reminder to review all the legal documents in your business at least once a year, if not more often than that, to make sure that the laws haven't changed, that your practice hasn't changed in a way that you would need to make some changes to your client services agreement. You want to make sure you review those regularly. You just don't want to set it and forget it, because privacy policies change, the rules change, the laws change, and you want to make sure your templates are still up to date. And then I think it goes without saying, if things get complicated or it's beyond the scope of what you think you can handle as a business owner, talk to a lawyer. Just call somebody. The $250, $500 fee that you're going to pay to talk to that lawyer for an hour or so and get some advice and guidance on what you're doing with your business is going to be well worth the money. And it could potentially save you a lot more money down the road. You don't want a $500 consultation fee is way better than a $5,000 legal mistake. Next things I want you to think about is to make this content actionable for you. Here's what I want you to do next. I want you to make a list of the legal documents that you may be missing from your business. So I outlined some of them here in this video. I'm going to include a link down below to a resource that you can download that'll provide you access to all the legal templates that you may need for your online business and where to get them. That's going to be really important. I would recommend you starting with the contracts that have the most impact legally on your business, such as a client services agreement or an contractor agreement. I'm going to include some links to contracts in the description below in this video. You can check those out as well. If you want to subscribe and get more no-fluff legal tips about how to legally protect your business, I would appreciate it. Make sure you give us a thumbs up. Now, again, you don't necessarily need a lawyer to run a legally sound online business, but you do need to take this stuff seriously. So if you're unsure where to start, drop a comment below. Let me know. I try to respond to as many comments as I can. I'll try and point you in the right direction. That's what I got for you today. If you got other questions, again, I'm going to include a link somewhere around here to the podcast episode that I created that talks about why you shouldn't use AI generating legal contracts for your business. Thank you for listening to this episode of the Legal Gym Podcast. If you found this episode helpful, make sure to subscribe and leave a review. It helps other entrepreneurs find the show and stay legally protected as well. And if you're ready to grab the legal templates that I mentioned today, make sure you head on over to onestoplegal.co and check out all of our done-for-you legal contracts. Until next time, keep building, keep growing, and don't forget to protect what you're working so hard to create. We'll talk to you in the next episode.